समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
This is a particularly unusual national interest because this begins with me asking myself a question. The question being, where does the columnist go if he has a disagreement with himself or a rethink over a stated view that has failed the test of time? This being the last national interest of 2025 is a good occasion to do so. A little bit of self-reflection. Will I do so every year end? I hope not. I hope I won't have the arguments to rethink, recalibrate, or simply resile from that often. Not every year, not once a year. An opinion column is exactly what it is meant to be, one writer's opinion. It cannot and should not win everybody's approval. It better be provocative. The reader's disagreement with some will be more intense than for others. The readers then have the recourse to write back in anger or criticism, either in a letter to the editor or at the print to our reader's editor, Shalja Bajpai. Where does the writer go? The writer of the column. Where does the columnist go except to the reader, which is what I'm doing. I know so many of you might think I got something so horribly wrong in all 50 of the national interest pieces I've written this year. Of course, I might disagree with that, but I can still list at least 5 over some 25 years that deserve a mea culpa. I would only deal with the most recent of these this week. The other ones maybe in the course of time I will talk about. This was published on 28th September 2024. It asserted that Islam does not kill democracy. The Army-Islam combination, Army-Islam combo does. How come Pakistan and Bangladesh rarely have a peaceful transition while Islamic Indonesia and Malaysia do? That's a question I raised. They are also Islamic. Similarly, I argued that Myanmar had a military rule hybrid system. They are in fact polling this Sunday despite being almost entirely Buddhist, especially after they brutally expelled most of their tiny Muslim minority, the Rohingya. And if Buddhism was the challenge to their democracy, how come Sri Lanka had no such issues? As I look back, I see many flaws with this formulation, with my original argument. The first, that so many Islamic countries have no democracy despite their army not interfering. My distant vision at that point was clouded by what I see in the neighborhood. At least that's my excuse or diagnosis. Iran has no military rule, and while it has regular elections, the unelected clergy rules. This is the classical hybrid arrangement and stable, unlike Pakistan's where power equations occasionally shift. The Gulf monarchies fear not their armies but democracy. They rule with the benefit of natural resources and in the name of Islam. It is most pronounced in the case of Saudi Arabia. Turkey has regular elections, but Erdogan has used religion to mutilate his constitution and destroy much of the opposition. In that 2024 piece, I also overlooked the lessons of the Arab Spring of 2011. Again, because of nearsightedness, because I could not look far enough. The Western world, liberal foundations, and Obama administration hailed this as a wonderful democratic upsurge in Muslim autocracies. Good riddance. People had now arrived to claim their place under the sun. There was some liberal excitement in India as well. After all, we were roused by Sighasan Khali Karo, कि अब जनता आती है, get off the throne. People have arrived to claim it. Poet Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, quoted by Jayaprakash Narayan, JP, in the fight against the emergency. Or those Faiz Ahmad Faiz lines so popular with our left liberal community. सब ताज उछाले जाएंगे, सब तख्त गिराए जाएंगे और राज करेगी खल्के खुदा जो मैं भी हूँ और तुम भी हो. When crowns are tossed, thrones are toppled, and power vests in God's people, that's you and I. Just a little footnote, Faiz Ahmad Faiz was a committed communist. That unraveled fast. That excitement over Arab Spring unraveled fast. In some cases, people welcomed the return of the past dictatorship, as in Egypt, and in some, the dictators survived, but the country became a failed state, Syria, for example, with many rebel armies rising not in the name of democracy or even nationalism, but over versions of Islam. Tunisia and Algeria carried out corrections to remain intact. They ducked the bullet because the army got involved and they carried out corrections to stay intact. Yemen is still broken and at war. And Libya, we don't have to talk again in detail about its horrible plight. I tried explaining Libya in an episode of Kartak Tatar. See the screenshot. I will also share a link with you with the description. But cruel though it may sound, you need to ask if the country wasn't better off under Colonel Gaddafi. That's Libya. At least he was an Arab nationalist. He had kept the country together. Now we have the country divided between two warlords buying black market arms with stolen oil money and so many other militias fighting in the name of this or that and generally maintaining a reign of anarchy in large parts of the country. The main reason Arab Spring failed was that the only institutionally organized group in all these countries was Muslim Brotherhood. No democratic institutions had been allowed to develop all this while. While democracy was Muslim Brotherhood's vehicle to power, its agenda was ideological, pan-national religious conservatism. I was particularly wrong with this argument because in many of the Islamic nations, the army has actually been a force of stability and safety, even for minorities. Next door, we are watching the army play that invaluable role again, at least as yet, in Bangladesh, with its history of, in spite of its history of instability and martial law. It's the army at the back which is providing stability rather than deny the country democracy and take over power. I said at least as yet. In Egypt, General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi got rid of Muslim Brotherhood's Mohammad Morsi and found popular acceptance and a sigh of relief. Similarly, in Tunisia and Algeria, the army has balanced out the Islamist forces and prevented the slide into a failed state. That the army-Islam combo was needed to destroy democracy, therefore, was too sweeping a generalization. Whether there is a contradiction between Islam and democracy is a complex debate. Let's nuance it with two questions. One, is there a contradiction between a Muslim state and democracy? And second, what's the difference between Islamic and Islamist? Islamic and Islamist? The answer to the first question, unfortunately, is mostly yes, despite exceptions like Maldives, Indonesia, the largest Muslim country, and Malaysia. Significantly, none of these three countries declares itself as an Islamic republic. Indonesia, for all practical purposes, is a secular democratic republic. A doctrinaire adherence to faith brings a preordained unitary system of governance, just like communism. That's why the global lib-left Islamic alliance is just so much blah. Both sides are cynical in partnering against a common enemy, the evil West, and its favorite child, Israel. The Islamic intelligentsia needs the left for global respectability, and the left needs alienated Muslims as gun fodder. Why not fight American imperialism and neoliberalism to the last angry Muslim? Can a communist state be democratic? Don't confuse it with socialism. And can an Islamic nation have democracy? This brings us to the distinction between Islamic and Islamist. The former, Islamic, is simply adherence to faith, anybody's faith. Everybody has the right to choose their faith. It's a choice like being Hindu, Christian, Jewish, or atheist. It doesn't seek to force others to alter their ways of life or their adherence to religion to conform to yours. Contrary to Islamic, is a political philosophy that wants to enforce rules of the faith on non-believers, and if they don't, punish them. That's ISIS or Daesh, the ideology that fueled the Bondi Beach massacre of Jews in Australia, Easter bombings targeting Christians in Sri Lanka, and the depredations in Syria and its neighborhood and across the world. Forget democracy. The Islamists wouldn't even countenance nationalism. They want a caliphate transcending all Muslim nations, at least if not the entire world. That's why the force every Muslim nation, every Islamic nation fears the most is ISIS, the Islamists. The unfortunate truth is that fair elections brought them into power in the name of Muslim Brotherhood. That was the camouflage in so many countries. We can safely say, therefore, that there is a contradiction between Islamists, as distinct from Islam, and democracy. Pakistan is an Islamic republic with strong nationalism. It is not an Islamist country. It will never fight for another Islamic nation unless, of course, it's paid for it. Even Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, terrorist organizations, use Islam only to fuel their hatred for India. Even the Taliban, who run the world's most Sharia-compliant state, fear ISIS and Islamists because it threatens their nationalism. Will they risk an election? Of course not. Nor would any of the Gulf states. Iraq stands out as an exception, but its Shia majority demographics and the Iranian influence put some qualifications on its democracy. In my October 2024 column, I overlooked all of these nuances. My vision was focused too tightly on the neighborhood. The regrettable fact is that as you draw a line from the Red Sea to the Bay of Bengal, the only countries where Muslim citizens have had an uninterrupted free vote that determines who rules their country for a finite period are at the two extremities, Israel and India. I accordingly stand corrected.